and open source software. The rapid increase in the use of free and open source software represents most significant, all-encompassing and long-term trend that the embedded industry has been since the early 1980s. FOSS software license make source code available and grant developers the right to study, change and improve the software design. FOSS is already playing or will eventually play a role in the life cycle of every major software category, influencing everything from 64-bit servers to 8-bit microcontrollers. FOSS will fundamentally change the value proposition of software for all users and developers. FOSS is any software that can be freely licensed to use, copy, study and change in any way you want, while leaving the source code openly shared to allow people to voluntarily contribute and update the software. The main difference between free software and open source software in the philosophy of their inherent freedoms. A free software license is one that respects the end users for essential freedoms. First one, the freedom to run it. Second, the freedom to study and change it. Third, the freedom to redistribute copies. And fourth, the freedom to improve the program and release those improvements. Next, advantages of open source software in education. First one is cost benefits. The first and biggest constraint when educational institutions decide to equip their classroom with computers is cost. A simple cost analysis reveals that the hefty cost involved in setting up labs is primarily due to the high cost of software licensing. Open source software comes up with an elegant solution to this problem. It provides all software for free. The cost barrier is thus lowered by potentially reducing the cost of software by nullifying the initial cost of acquisition. All open source softwares can be easily downloaded via internet, and so any user with a modest internet connection has access to thousands of freely available software titles. Next, high availability. Another characteristics of free and open source software is its high availability. Many proprietary software are not available in poor countries because companies find it infeasible to distribute their product to small markets. In contrast, FOSS is readily available for free download directly from the internet, a global network. Next, bridging the digital divide. Open source software gains are more than monetary. People have recently come to question the potentials of free and open source software in bridging the so-called digital divide. This digital divide is an important cause for concern among education institutions and also businesses as students enter the workforce. Next, development of global community. Proprietary software is usually packaged in binary format, which is hard or even impossible to reverse engineer or modify. If proprietary software is used for academic research purpose, the algorithms involved in analyzing and manipulating the data are now exposed to public scrutiny. Open source software, on the other hand, dictates openness whenever put to use. Furthermore, OSs can be licensed using special group GPL8 license, which means that the software author need not necessarily have to give up ownership of his code. Academic environments where FOSS is prevalent will encourage students to tinker with the source. This might help students and might eventually result in novel and innovative solutions to common problems in the software industry. FOSS also encourage cooperative development among student programmers around the world. All this helps in building solid global community upon which our growing software industry will be based. Next, elimination of privacy. As mentioned previously, students often find it convenient to install an operating system that is used by all. Running the same operating system and applications as school does makes it easy to transfer homework assignments back and forth. In such scenario, students often find themselves forced to use particular brand of software because failing to do so may result in incompatibilities. If software turns out to be commercial or proprietary, most students, instead of purchasing a legal copy of the software from authorized vendor, relegates themselves to download pirated copy from internet. This equivalent to the stealing someone else's individual property. In today's terminology, this is known as software piracy and is serious crime punishable by law. It therefore becomes the foremost duty of every student to ensure the absence of pirated software on their home computers. If proprietary software were used as basic of teaching, students would have no choice but to use pirated copies of softwares to allow them to do homework and assignments at home. If students are unable to purchase the appropriate license, they must resort to finding alternatives to complete the task at hand. Open source software is one such alternative. With more and more schools adopting the open source ideology, students become more comfortable in installing free software at home. The open source movement will thus help to reduce the need for students to break the law and steal others' intellectual property. Next, numerous educational applications. Debian GNU Linux operating system, for example, has approximately 8,710 packages that can be downloaded and installed for free. There are plenty of tools available for variety of education-related tasks such as writing papers, performing complex calculations, preparing graphs, modeling proteins and chemical molecules, studying planetary motions, word processing, analyzing data through spreadsheets, making presentation slides, writing scripts, programming, and other programs. Applications and tools most likely to be used by students. Volunteers around the world have even collaborated a customized Linux operating system just for schools. This project is known as School Linux, has its home at http://www.schoollinux.org. Such a tailored system of software applications and components make it incredibly easy for schools and students to install open source software on their computers. Next, reliability, performance and security. In education situation, it is imperative that students' information and data be kept secure. Also, the computer that they use must be reliable and must not have deal with application crashes frequently. Open source software is considered to have better reliability, performance and security due to its very versatile developmental methodology. Since OSS is openly available, anyone can identify vulnerabilities, fix bugs, and send patches to the maintainers. In a classroom settings, competent students can fix bugs themselves and can modify software to suit the institutions' specific needs. Next, software localization. This factor of software localization is crucial in determining if software can be used in non-English speaking countries or in countries where English may not be a language of choice. Open source software scores on this one because it can be localized for free. This localization is possible primarily due to the open nature of the software itself. The good news that such software localization need not involve the original developer and can be done by anyone. Next, benefits of open source softwares. First one, high quality software. High quality software. With FOSS, the source code is open for anyone to view and make changes. Therefore, much of open source software is well designed as it's geared around a community of users. Everyone can contribute and regulate one another's work. Next is reliability. With a community of users all working on software code, the result is higher quality content. Another advantage of many workers is greater reliability than proprietary code that may be created by a handful of people who are restricted with what they can produce. Next is security. You may think that because of FOSS allows anyone to make changes, then it is an ideal place for hackers to exploit it. In reality, since the code is public, more and more people can investigate and collaborate and fix any exploits, ensuring the software's security. This has been proven by many studies. Next, transparency. As well as being secure, open source means full visibility, therefore more transparency. This community of users work together to develop features and check bugs. They can also ensure there are nothing nasty hidden within the code that may be unethical regarding user data. Freedom from lock-ins. Proprietary software all wish to lock you into their ecosystem, where their software only works in the way they intend it to work. Therefore, you cannot disable any notifications you may receive, easy remove Google services on an Android device, to name a few. Next is cheaper. We have seen that free and open source software is created and run by the community. It is generally cheaper than its proprietary counterparts. FOSS typically relies on donations from the users. Next, disadvantages of FOSS. Main disadvantage of open source software is nothing being straightforward to use. Open source operating system such as Linux can be less user friendly. Therefore, if you wish to contribute, you will mostly likely to need to brush up on your programming skills. Although more and more open source software being used, there is still a shortage in some applications. Therefore, if you wish to make the switch to an open source platform, you may run into some compatible issues. Thank you.